operations in this country every year as a result of football, most of which injuries occur on the field, but a large part of which injuries were produced in the gym. Exercise, proper exercise, will never hurt you. It will hurt your muscles. It'll make them hurt. If it doesn't, you're not doing it right. But it won't injure you. If you are training in such a fashion that your muscles don't hurt during the exercise, then don't bother. Quit. Do something else. So exercise will hurt, but it won't hurt you. In fact, it'll go a long way to prevent injury, or it should. But in practice, it frequently causes injuries. Again, I'm not against a barbell. A Nautilus machine is nothing but a barbell. But I am much against the criminal malpractice, the insanity that is being preached around this country, particularly for the training of athletes. The guy that started that whole thing, fortunately, is now dead. His name is Alvin Roy, was. He was from Louisiana. He was in New Orleans when I lived 35 miles away in Slidell. I didn't know him, but I could read the papers. And when he opened a health club there and sold everybody in town a lifetime membership and then closed it over the weekend and left town, I read about it in the papers. 2 years later, he did the same damn thing and in the same location. He didn't even have the courtesy to go across the street. And I read about that at the time. Later, he hitched his star to Billy Cannon, a famous Louisiana football player who was also a weightlifter. And Alvin hitched his star to Billy Cannon's. I don't know that he ever met Billy Cannon, but he damn sure wasn't responsible for his training. But Billy Cannon couldn't spend his life following Alvin around, pointing out that Alvin was lying every time he made that claim. Alvin would get up on the podium in front of a bunch of coaches and foam at the mouth and storm and run up and down and talk about clutching power and dynamic power and explosive power. Gee, coaches, you want your people to be explosive. They got to train explosive. And coaches, of course, being coaches, they believed it. After all, they don't know anything about weight training. This guy's a world-famous expert. Why, didn't he produce Billy Cannon? No, he didn't, but he claimed to. How are they going to check? He was a con man, a BS artist, a liar, a phony. He was worse than that. At first, when I first met him, I thought he was dumb enough to believe this. You know, I knew he was wrong. I knew he was stupid. But I thought he was dumb enough to believe it, so at least he was sincere. But eventually, I went down and visited a training camp down here, the Saints in Vero Beach. It was worse than that. He didn't believe it. He knew better. He damn sure didn't practice it. He'd take one of these football players and lead them over to a machine and sit them down, and the guy could have used 200 pounds. He'd give him 40 pounds. And he'd say, well, now do a few movements there, John, you know. And now that's good, and he'd pat him on the ass and take him over here and give him 50 pounds where he could have used 300. Explosive training hell. That was the last thing in the world he was going to do. Himself, personally. Because he knew what the results would be. But he also knew that that's what the coaches want to hear. And he was perfectly willing to tell them something that he knew was dangerous. Because he knew that if he did, why, they'd believe him. Well, I'm not going to stand up here and tell you what you want to hear, necessarily. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And any of you here that practice explosive lifts ought to have your marbles unscrambled. Because you'll goddamn sure end up with your joints scrambled, I guarantee you. I've been there. Show me a man who has regularly performed competitive type lifts, and I'll show you permanent damage to his skeleton with an X-ray. 100%. Now, he may not be as old as I am, and he may not be aware of all this damage yet. Give him